What's up, players? Welcome to episode number 66 of Ready Press Play, your weekly source for everything that's new and exciting in the world of video games. Every Friday at 6 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we discuss the top news of the week, notable releases on our platforms, while we're playing, big topics of the industry, and the games we love. If you want to write anything to be read on the show, go to ReadyPlayNetwork.com or hit us up at Ready Press Play on Twitter and TikTok. No matter where you found us, please subscribe to the feed so you can get every new show directly to your device as soon as it posts. And if you like it, please leave us a nice review. This is April 16th, 2021. I'm your host, Daniel Lima, and I'm joined as always by my wonderful co-host, Mr. Louis Menchaca.
You know, Dan, I gotta say, we're about to hit episode number 69 real close, real soon.
We got to do something special,
I
right?
know. And then the worst part is like the onus is on me because I'm the host of episode 69.
You
So,
know, I didn't even think of that. Yes, Louis and I alternate hosting duties here, so we do. He does the odd episodes right now. I do the even episodes. I
which
think
it
we've
was
switched
flipped
that
at
a few
first.
times.
It was flipped at first.
Yeah,
I was the even episodes, but yeah, whatever.
but yeah, no, that's a good point. We got to think of something like, I don't know, like should we talk about, the 10 best games that have implemented 69, or
You
the
know what? Better yet,
69
the
best
topic of
games
the
that
show is like the best adults AO. Is it AO 17 or whatever the hell? What's the word? The best A.
mature?
No, like
No,
not
there's
mature. Like the one
there
above mature.
yeah.
Like the best
Yeah,
games
it's
that are
adult
rated above
only.
it.
It's
Above.
AO.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
adults
don't think I've
only.
ever seen a game that's actually rated that, by the way.
I don't
Is
think
that
so
an
either.
actual
That's an actual
I've seen
rating,
the
but it's a kiss of death, so they don't do that. So for when it comes to like sales and
interesting.
stuff. But yeah,
Right.
we
Well,
gotta.
so if you're listening to this for the first time, welcome to our very family friendly video game show. We're very mature video game show as well. Let's get on with
I
some
like
housekeeping.
I like sprung that on you too, by the way. We didn't I never once said anything until now.
Yep. Didn't expect it. The funny thing with the 69 joke is that I feel like you
Yeah.
go through this it goes through this like graph where, when I was a teenager, it was like 69, so funny. Like you make fun of it, right? And then you become a little bit older, and then it's like, that you don't do that anymore. That's stupid. Like you get a little bit more mature. Like you don't make that joke anymore. The thing that I've realized recently, though, is that it feels like after you hit a certain point, then people start making the joke again. So like, it's almost like like you like get more mature and then you regress like back to your teenage years or something. Um, but anyway,
Yeah.
that aside,
All right. Housekeeping.
um, housekeeping. All right, so Louis and I went live to stream It Takes Two on our Twitch channel last weekend. We did that on Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 12 p.m. Central Time, and we started playing the game. We're going to be talking a little bit about it later today, and we're going to continue playing the game for now every Sunday at that time frame. We'll see if we decide to change the time or something later, but hit us up on twitch.tv/readypressplay. If you want to follow along with that and watch us play that game. That's of course Joseph Ferris's new game, Haze Light Studios, published by EA, and we're having a pretty good time with that.
It's pretty much already
Now,
a ready press play sealed of approval kind of situation, right?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely. Now, Louis, I'm gonna let you take this one. What do you want to say about this premiere situation?
Okay, so we are the only pre-recorded podcast on Level One Gaming's YouTube channel. All of their podcasts from Monday through Friday are live, and they have viewers tuning in live every day. And so the higher ups at Level One Gaming, pulled me aside and wanted me to increase the engagement with
That
the
almost sounds
viewers.
like you're in trouble.
I know,
The way
right?
you've worded that. It's like
That's like the higher
Louis,
ups. Yeah.
meet me outside.
Yeah, I know, right? It's like some business meetings and stuff like that. It's like, ah, come on, man. Come on, guys. But yeah, no, like they were like, hey, our videos are doing pretty good views on the channel, but we get no comments, we get no likes or whatever. So basically, they're like, hey, well, let's try to drum up this up because all the other shows are doing so well, but our show is on a Saturday. Come on, like not very many YouTubers like upload on Saturdays, but whatever. Anyways, so they're like, all right, try to increase engagement. Let's see if we can make this happen. So basically, YouTube has a function where that you can premiere a video. So a premiere is like a live stream where it's like it plays it out like in real time, so like you can't like just fast forward. It's like being broadcast basically. So if you tune in like 30 minutes after the premiere is happening, you're watching the show from the 30 minutes onwards. You can't really like just
Hmm.
go backwards or whatever. So basically it's a good way to try to increase engagement. So we're gonna try it out. I'm gonna commit to two. This very first episode right now, I am, if you're watching the premiere, I'm in the comments right now. I'm in the chat, and you can reply to anything we say. If you disagree with any of our thoughts or opinions or our 69 jokes, I'll be right there in the chat. So I'll be in the chat for this episode, for episode 66, and then for the next episode 67. If we get a lot of views, like people watching it live, so to speak, then we'll discuss a pay raise with Level One Gaming.
So you need to. I like that. You need to tell them, Lewis, when is that premiere going to go live? I don't know if you said that,
I
but
did
I might have
not.
missed that.
I did not. Thank you. You're keeping me on track here. So we always upload at Saturdays at 8 a.m., which is like our normal time, but we can't really premiere at them in the morning. No one's gonna wake up on a Saturday morning. So we're gonna do Saturday night. So I get off of work and I'll be able to be in the chat Saturday at 7 p.m. Central Time, 5 o'clock Pacific. So
Okay. Okay. So 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. I believe it would be 9 p.m. in Brazil. Well, you got the gist. You can
yeah.
whichever zone you're in, you can look for that on the Level One Gaming YouTube channel. And I assume that if you go in there close to the time, you're gonna see there's like a countdown kind of thing where it
Yeah,
says like when it's gonna be going live in your
whenever we
region.
upload it, whenever we upload it, we hit the premiere like scheduler.
Hmm.
As soon as you go to the Level One Gaming YouTube channel, you can actually see the thumbnail and the time, like when it's gonna go live. So you can actually see it, and you can actually kind of queue up as early as you want and just be on that little channel. It's like it's gonna start in like 24 hours or whatever the hell. So, I've seen IGN people do it and like all these other people that do
Hmm.
premieres and stuff. So, when they're scheduled broadcasts and stuff like that, they have it set up that way. So, the same will be said for us. So, two premieres, we'll see what happens, and hopefully you guys show up and I'll be reacting live. So, yeah.
Perfect. All right, Lewis. So with that out of the way, why don't we go ahead and talk a little bit about the games we're playing?
All right. So for the games, I actually got some really good, juicy stuff here. I've been holding back on you guys. I haven't really been playing much of anything, but that's because I've been on assignment reviewing a game. And I reviewed a PlayStation VR game, and it's interesting. I got a couple of notes to say. First off, I'm gonna just go ahead and spoil it. It's an amazing game. I gave it a 9 out of 10. That's like the highest I've ever given a game thus far on the site. Um, it was just so breathtaking at times, and it's really interesting that I've never actually played PSVR since I got LASIK, and having the headset without glasses on just really felt like it was some next level ish. But as far as the actual game itself, the name of the game is called Altdeus Beyond Chronos, and it's a visual novel, kind of like the Danganronpa series. It's
Hmm.
anime. It's got the anime art style, and it's very Japanese as hell. And yeah, the visual novel really works for VR, to tell you the truth, because first off, I completely forgot how VR is so immersive as far as like 3D. Like, there's definitely a lot of 3D space. You can tell distance, you can tell scale. You feel like you're inside this virtual room. So it was so good. I loved it.
I I kind of want to step you there first for a second, just because I'm really hung up on like the visual novel and VR aspect of this, like
Hmm.
the anime style. Like, what does this look like? Because I don't even know if I can quite picture it. Does it feel like you're looking at like some kind of like a pop-up book of some kind where you're seeing like these things and um or like is it like full on like 3D models that just have that like anime style, kind of like the skin in Fortnite
Yes.
where they had like that anime girl skin? So that okay, so
Okay.
that's what it
So
looks
think about
like.
that skin in Fortnite. Think about like if you're
Hmm.
like any typical anime like Bleach or Dragon Ball Z, like or just any animes in general, like that general like aesthetic. Put that in
Hmm.
3D and put yourself in the first person.
Okay.
Like
So
you
you are a character in this world. You're not
Yes.
just watching the story from up
Yeah,
top.
you
Okay.
are a character in the world, and you have agency as far as making decisions about what to do. Like you're presented with options about whether or not to lie to characters, or what's your intentions, things like that. Things to progress a story. It's got that Telltale Walking Dead thing where there's like a branching path, or like decision trees. Um, you know,
Hmm.
there's multiple endings, of course, because and there's like mechanic where like they expect you to play the game multiple times because um, you there's a they wrote it into the story where like the way the game begins is like the main character, your character that you're playing as, has a dream, and so now it makes it so that way when the game starts over for the second playthrough and the next playthrough, it's like, oh, you just had a dream, and your last playthrough was a dream. So it's like nice. That's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
So now
Interesting.
you can
Okay,
act on
that's
information that canonically you can act on information that you wouldn't otherwise know.
that's really fucking cool. I like that. I like that a lot.
And also,
Damn.
branching paths open up because of what happened in your last playthrough. Choices that were not present previously available. The game is like
So
the one thing I didn't the one thing I didn't say in my review, and I forgot to write this in there, but I really wanted to just make it a point, is that the game can be beat in 3 hours. And that's basically like
oh,
if you're
okay.
powering through it on one sitting on the VR, it actually works for VR because like
Hmm.
VR, it's like a whole headset, a little sweaty and stuff like that. But in 3 hours you can play a whole playthrough, and it takes about maybe 15 to 20 hours to beat the whole game as far as like all the multiple runs.
All the different endings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I was gonna ask you, like, how many endings have you seen? If you've seen all of them, or if you just did one and you called it a day,
I
or.
did 2 runs, but I didn't see them all. But yeah, I
Mhm.
definitely am more interested in seeing them all. It's definitely my first ever like visual novel, and I've never been against them. So yeah, I'm very excited for the genre now, just because of how much. Now, granted, I don't think I've ever heard of a VR visual novel. Like when I think of visual novels, I think of like the
Yeah.
Vita. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, there were plenty in the Vita. I even played one on the Switch for a bit, but I don't typically. I've tried like playing some of those games, but I don't typically get into them because I feel like I don't know, like I really enjoy gameplay, like I need to get a little bit of that cool gameplay mechanics, that moment to moment.
Yeah,
And
this is not
with
that.
yeah, with
I
visual novels, it's very much you're just like you're kind of just reading a book or watching a story, and I can enjoy that too. It's just I don't often find myself in the mood for that specific type of game.
Yeah, the when I was putting my review out, I basically graded the gameplay as the worst part of it.
Hmm.
It's not the strongest part. It's like I even put on my I let it slide as far as like I said, hey, look, you're not gonna go and play Detroit Become Human for its gameplay.
Yeah. Yeah, on the other hand, I love Detroit, like I love games like that. So there is a value to, the more story driven, less gameplay kind of games too. So I totally get that. And the fact that it is in VR, like that's almost what seems to be the best part of it, hearing it, because I had never heard of a visual novel in VR. But now that I picture it and that I heard what you said, like it makes total sense because one of the main difficulties with VR is controls. Is like how do we translate traditional gameplay mechanics to a VR environment, where you can't move as easily, or there's all sorts of issues that can arise from just translating controls one to one. But for a visual novel, that should be really easy to control in VR, and I don't see how that would cause any issues as far as motion sickness goes or anything like that, because you're pretty much just going through scenes, right?
Yep. So yeah, like one of the good things about this is like it's yeah the story of you is you're like a piloting a mech, kind of like you're in Pacific Rim, and so it's kind of
Hmm.
interesting is like the visuals are so awesome because there's like so much scale, because there was one time where you're like literally standing in front of a kaiju and you're like this little character and you're looking up at this giant big ass thing coming down on you and leaning over and getting on its knees and kind of sort of getting all up in your face, and it is so intense. Like I felt my heart
Uh-huh.
pounding and stuff like that. There was so many different times where like there was just like some breathtaking ass moments and stuff like that. Like for instance, the best part that I was like is early on when you get to the title sequence. Like animes have theme songs. Like when you watch Dragon Ball
Yep.
Z or like Attack on Titan, there's like that anime opening. Like
Yep.
That anime opening was so fucking badass because first off, it starts off in like this theater mode, and like you're watching it like in like a 2D box kind of thing, like you're in like in a a movie theater kind of virtual void, and then the music is kind of slow and like poetic and shit, and the next thing you know, the bass, in the EDM tracks and stuff like that, where like the bass drops kind of thing. It's like whenever the song drops, and then next thing you know, it's in VR. Now the opening sequence is in like freaking roses and petals are flying all up in your face, and like there's just so much. Oh my god, I loved it. Like
That's awesome. That's
it's such
awesome.
a good experience, and yeah, man. Like I just wanted to pull up. I pulled up the review that I wrote for Level One Gaming here. First off, they provided the code and everything like that. So just thank you guys. So the review I have here, I'm just gonna pull up this little part right here. It says here. Let's see here. What is a visual novel without a story? This is easily the strongest category for the game. I would like to start off this section by saying that this game is anime as fuck, and I'm living for that. This game has all the tropes of a good anime, including anime waifus, a kick ass anime theme, and most importantly, juicy anime betrayals.
Oh man. All right. Good
Yeah,
stuff. Good stuff.
yeah. And then last part here,
Cool.
just as far as my conclusion, where I get to I wrote a lot. I had a lot to say, but I was gonna say, so is Altdeus Beyond Chronos the best visual novel to ever visual novel? I honestly don't know. This is my first visual novel, but I can say that I really love this game, and I'm excited for the genre. And I think I'll seek out the Danganronpa series next because the bar is set high for me. And yeah, I also said later on, I said I think this game is amazing, and I easily recommend it for VR owners. And if you are an anime weeb like me, I would put this category on must play. So yeah, 9 out of
Cool.
10.
Cool stuff. Cool stuff. Cool stuff. So go check out Altdeus Beyond Chronos if you have a PlayStation VR. Lewis recommends it. Oh, Lewis, do you want to talk about It Takes Two?
Yes, let's go for it. So we gotta, I gotta do the shill thing where it's like twitch.tv/ready press play. Go there every Sunday morning slash Sunday afternoon if you're in the different time zones. We're gonna be streaming live every Sunday for the time being, and yeah, take it away, Dan.
Yeah, so we started playing It Takes Two. That is Joseph Ferris's new game. The director, the crazy personality behind Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, which is one of my favorite games of all time. A game that I've been an advocate for a really long time. That I occasionally tweet about it, and I made Lewis play it, and he loved it as well. We did a spoiler cast for it, and then he made A Way Out, which Lewis and I played together through the completion for the first time last year in our stream as well. We also made a spoiler cast for that. And then obviously, when It Takes Two came out, both Lewis and I were excited for it. So we jumped in to start playing it. And I just realized I haven't done this in a while, but I should give the disclaimer on this one because this is straight up a published by EA game.
Mm.
I work for EA. I don't work for the studio. I don't really have any connection to the people in the studio. From my understanding, they're not even like a first party EA studio or anything. EA just publishes the game. But I figured I should give that disclaimer in case you don't want to, you want to take my opinion with a grain of salt or any of that stuff. But we, I really like this game, Lewis, and we're not that far yet. I assume that it sounds to me like this game is longer than his previous games. It feels like they get longer every time. I think we're about at most like 20% in, maybe even like 10% in or something like that. But yeah, we had such a good time. This game starts with kind of a bang. Actually, it's like it has a very dark theme in its beginning, which in a way is kind of similar to how brothers, like you start with learning about the death of the mother and the father being sick and etc. And that sends these two brothers in this adventure. In a similar way, It Takes Two starts with a couple that has fallen out of love and that is getting a divorce. They tell their kid that they're getting a divorce. Their kid goes and grabs these two dolls that she made, cries on top of them, and then in typical like old like 90s movie magic, the parents turn into the dolls, and now they got to figure out how to basically like fall in love with each other again, or maybe learn to understand each other better to go through the series of challenges in this very Honey has Shrunk the Kids like version of their world. And gameplay, I want to start by saying, and I've already said a lot, but that's kind of the intro to the game. The gameplay of this game is really good. And that was the thing that I was the most impressed with when I first started playing. I was like, man, this feels good. It feels kinetic. It feels fast. It feels polished. Like the jumps feel good. It's hard to get that stuff right, especially on a 3D platformer. We've seen Mario games get it right most of the time, but we've seen a lot of other games not get it right. So the fact that they were able to get this to almost feel like Super Mario 64 or better, even actually, in this game is really, props to them for that to begin with. I'll let you talk a little bit
Yeah, the tight
as
fluid
well.
controls, that was the very first thing I noticed was like, the
Mhm.
60 frames per second on the camera. I was noticing that frame rate, and it felt so good to just use the right stick and move around and stuff like that. It was so awesome, man. Yeah, I like the Brothers A Tale of Two Sons aspect of things where no mechanic gets wears out its welcome. It's always
Mhm.
it's always better to leave the audience wanting more than to better to leave them wanting than
Mhm.
to like have them like have like a bad taste in your mouth because like, oh my god, this is kind of like it's getting old kind of thing. So I guess it's better that way than the other way. You know with like
Mhm.
the early on, like in the first things were like, you've got nails and I got a hammer, that kind of stuff. It's like
Yeah.
those are really good ways of just designing these intricate levels where like you have to cooperate and stuff. Like that's the whole you know motifs of that level and stuff like that, where each level is like you got to learn a different lesson and stuff like that. It's interesting how the game is. We were commenting on it during the live stream or at the end of the live stream, where we talked about how like this game feels like a bit of an oversimplification, or like feels a bit like a bit immature when it comes to like the complexities of why a couple would fall apart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's I saw some tweets on Twitter from like Trevor Starkey, and he said that these characters are despicable and stuff like that. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, I believe him. That's probably something we'll probably like learn about as we learn about the characters and stuff like that. Maybe they are undeserving.
Mhm.
It's an
Mhm.
interesting thought, and I don't know. I feel like the gameplay is like the king, and when it comes to this kind of situation, like it works. Having a game that's like there aren't very many games that are designed and centered around where two people have to control it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most types of situations, it's like you're the single player. Like with Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, you're controlling both brothers, kind of thing. So it's like it's interesting where it's like you have to rely on someone, and I was just talking about how Dan was like, man, Dan, I'm carrying the team here and stuff like that. How we bickered
Well,
like a married couple at times during the stream. It's like, come
yeah,
on,
it
come
was
on,
fun. It
Dan.
was fun. I had
Yeah.
my moments. Yeah, I'm not sold by the story of the game yet, but I don't expect to be this early into the game. I feel like I kind of trust Joseph Ferris's ability with the storytelling that he's proven to be pretty capable at with Brothers and A Way Out. So I kind of trust that he's going to play around with their hearts and probably pull the rug from under us at some point in this game and have some crazy plot twist close to the end. I think that's fairly expected. At the same time, this game is kind of approaching its storytelling from a different perspective. I feel like A Way Out was a lot more adult and mature, and this one, although having like a mature theme to begin with, which is divorce, like the game is presented in a very more like childlike manner. Like it's there it has that childlike wonder to it as you play through it. And so I could kind of see this maybe being the game that falls flat in its story, just in the sense that it might end up being very simple
It's a
compared
little
to.
it's a little more DreamWorks and a little less Pixar.
Yeah, that's my. But to be fair, like we're gonna talk about this, we're gonna dive deeper into this when we can actually talk about spoilers and have finished the game in the spoiler cast that we're definitely gonna do for this. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. But in the meantime, I'm just enjoying the gameplay and the back and forth of the co-op. It's
Oh,
what makes those games more fun is playing it with somebody else that
shout out to the book, by
know
the way.
and having the. Oh yes, yes, I'm so glad you remember that. Yeah, there's this character in the game which is basically a talking book, Dr. Hakim. And the voice acting is just excellent. It's so funny that the writing for the dialogue for him is great as well. I love that he's so like he's like all happy and excited, and he has all this like enthusiasm and swag to everything that he's doing and saying. But at the same time, he's also kind of a dick. Like, he's just like there's this part where like they're dealing with this vacuum that they didn't take care of, and then he was straight up just be like, yeah, they screw with you, and they wouldn't fix you, and instead of just kind of like basically throwing more like wood to the fire, just like setting them up. Meanwhile, is turning to them and being like, I'm teaching you how to collaborate. um I don't know. It's like there's something about it's like that little like passive aggressiveness and etc. Like there's a lot of cool stuff to his character. So props to the writing and the voice acting that is,
Yes. Yeah, he stole the show.
perfect.
Yeah, he's
Perfect for
like a
that
blend of
character.
like Cheech Marin and John Leguizamo. So
I
yeah.
don't I don't even know what you're referencing there.
Oh, god damn. All right.
Sorry,
Whatever.
I'm very uncultured when
Uh,
it comes to pop culture stuff, but
Fair enough. All right.
all right.
Well, yeah, let's go ahead and move on then.
I'm sure people that are watching are gonna know though, Louis. So that's just me.
That's true. I don't know why, but my phone is is acting a little slow right now, so I'm not able to queue up these sound effects as quickly as I thought. Anyways, the battle bus. Uh,
Yes, Louis. Are you gonna stick with your commitment to not spend any V-Bucks until May 1st?
I've already bought Aloy, so
Oh, okay. So you
and
already said fuck it.
no, no,
Okay. Okay.
I had V Bucks on my account before I said that, and
Oh,
I
okay.
wasn't reloading them.
Okay.
I haven't reloaded. I'm down to my last 1,000 V Bucks, by the way, after the Aloy purchase. So
Okay.
I have to make 1,000 V Bucks work for like 15 days, and I hope they don't put out a dope ass skin because they
We'll
usually
see.
cost like
We'll see.
2,000 a minimum. So
Yeah. So that's the story that we're gonna bring in here. I'm not gonna actually read the story, but basically, Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West has come into Fortnite. It's already out. Actually, you can buy it right now. There's the regular character is 1,500 V-Bucks, and the full bundle with all the different accessories and etc. is 2,200. Which is typical for all the characters. They were also doing a special limited time mode called Team Up Aloy and Lara, where everybody played as either Aloy or Lara Croft. I don't know if that mode is still available, Louis. You might know. And that was also just on PS4 and PS5 anyway. However, you can buy Aloy in any console that you're playing Fortnite in. So yeah.
The Aloy thing doesn't start until the 16th, which is Friday, which is the day that it drops on audio feeds, and it runs for the weekend, so until Sunday. So
Oh, cool. All right. I was under because it said something about how like if you play this mode, you can unlock Aloy early. So I thought that meant that it was gonna be before Aloy actually came out. But
there was a tournament like a cup, like there's different Fortnite cups.
mm,
If you
yes,
win the cup, you get the Aloy skin.
cool.
I don't ever play those cups because I'm not a tryhard, and I would get utterly
Me neither.
stomped. Um, but yeah, no. As far as I have the image up here on screen for any video watchers and stuff like that. But there's two skins. There's the default Aloy that you see as far as like how Aloy looks like on Horizon, Zero Dawn. But there's like an additional like a player two alt. You know how like in Smash Brothers, there's like different like alt skins and stuff like that. Basically, if you play this game, like play Fortnite on the PlayStation 5, you automatically get the alternate skin costume if you own Aloy. So it's
Hmm.
like it looks interesting. They did that with Kratos and with Master Chief, where like if you have Kratos, you get like a golden armor Kratos, and if you own Xbox Series X and you play Master Chief on the Series X, you get a black alternate Master Chief, like a black skin alt.
Hmm.
So I'm glad that they're keeping that trend up. So it's like it's basically just trying to get people to like buy the next gen consoles and stuff like that because if you get it, you get the extra added bonus of
Yeah.
having a perk that's like an alt that says when you're playing as Aloy with that alt, it's like, yeah, I'm on PlayStation 5, bitch.
Yeah, not like they really need to do that because it's not like people can buy a PS5 anyway, or it's not like people are not already buying everyone that is made available anyway.
True.
But yeah, no, it makes sense. So another PlayStation character coming out on Fortnite. We still have not seen a single Nintendo one. So
Yeah, I mean Metroid, man. Come on, give me a Samus skin. I will buy Samus twice, once on my PS5 and
you
another
know,
time on the Switch.
I was thinking about this, Lewis, and I don't think they would like Nintendo would be down to put any character in Fortnite, and the reason is because you the thing that I realized with Fortnite after we last talked about this particular situation is that once you have a character in Fortnite, you can execute all actions that exist in Fortnite with that character, which means that you can do all the emotes and the dances, and you can have them hold any of the weapons that are available in the game for you to pick up. Like, you're not gonna get a message that says, "Hey, you can't pick up a gun because you're playing as Mario," right? Like you could anything that's in there you can pick up with any skin. So the license holder needs to be okay with that. Like, hey, like, are you okay with Kratos dancing? Are you okay with them picking up a bazooka? Are you okay with them fishing? Like all these things. And I could see Nintendo being a little bit more strict with that stuff. I know that, even though they're becoming a little bit more loose with their licenses and what they're okay with people doing with their licenses than they used to be, at the same time they do have a tight control on like making sure things are right and canon and consistent within their worlds. Historically, I remember with Wreck-It Ralph, they were very big on how like the size of Bowser in that movie, and how he had to be portrayed correctly and all that stuff. So I feel like that would be the issue there, because we never really see Samus like holding a gun. And I think
Just her arm
that's
cannon. That's it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, right? So I think that's intentional. I don't think and I think maybe Nintendo just doesn't want their characters holding
What's
guns,
kind of
but
funny
I
is that Samus is a bounty hunter, and and
yeah,
actually Captain Falcon is too. And if you look at the model, like the 3D model in like the Amiibo, as well as in Smash 4 and Smash Ultimate, Captain Falcon has a gun holster, like an
mhm.
actual like gun on his hip. So it's and also Fox as well, but his is like a little laser gun, so it's okay, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's you're right. I I agree with you about the whole like Mario wasn't in Wreck and Ralph because of that very reason and stuff. But at
Mhm.
the same time, come on, like Nintendo is making strides, and I feel like they just need to get like a little push, like
I know.
like fans need to want this and stuff like that. And I'm telling you, like I know for a fact that that Nintendo will make a lot of money from all those V Bucks and stuff that Epic is going to be giving away to them, getting them a cut. So
Yeah.
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah, definitely. All right, Lewis, do you wanna move on?
yep.
All right. It's time for our topic of the show. We're bringing this one early here today, like we do sometimes when we think there's something cool to talk about early in the show. And this time, our topic of the show is a news story that's a little bit old by now. This broke a little bit after we posted our last episode. Um, this article here was last updated on April 9th from IGN. It's written by Joe Screbbles, and our episode, right when our episode posted, we recorded on Thursday, so it was right after that. But I still thought it was an interesting conversation. This seems to have been the biggest thing that happened over the last week. So I wanted us to, dive deep and talk about it. The Last of Us remake reportedly in development, and Days Gone 2 pitch rejected. Sony Studios are reportedly working on a remake of The Last of Us, while Sony Bend begins work on a new game after an unsuccessful 2019 pitch to make Days Gone 2. In a new Bloomberg report into the satisfaction among Sony's lesser known studios, sources say that a Last of Us remake codenamed T1X was started by Michael Mumbauer, the founder of Visual Arts Service Group, a Sony developer that traditionally assists development on PlayStation Studios games. Mumbauer apparently assembled a new 30 strong development group, and after passing on the idea of a remake of the first Uncharted game, settled on a remake of 2013's The Last of Us. However, the team reportedly ran into trouble after Sony kept their existence a secret and refused to offer extra budget. Head of PlayStation Studios Herman Hulst apparently deemed the project too expensive, and Mumbauer's team was moved to support development of The Last of Us 2. Bloomberg sources say that after The Last of Us 2 was completed, Sony moved multiple Naughty Dog developers onto the T1X project, and the remake effectively became a Naughty Dog project. Manbauer and other original developers have now left the company, but development on the remake is apparently continuing. As part of the same report, Bloomberg also says the Sony Band pitched a sequel to Days Gone after the game's released in 2019, but was rejected. Sony then apparently moved Bend developers onto two Naughty Dog projects, a multiplayer game, presumably the standalone Last of Us multiplayer game, and a new Uncharted project, which has also been rumored recently. Some band staff reportedly left as a result of having their autonomy taken away, and leadership allegedly complained to Sony and asked to be moved off of Uncharted development. Sony Band is now apparently working on a new original game, but it's not clear if this is Days Gone 2, a brand new game, or a return to another back catalog game. Update. Eurogamer reports that its sources claim a Sony Bend developed Uncharted game was planned to be a new chapter for the series, possibly a prequel, and was intended as something of a reboot of the series. It's unclear if those plans have persisted with Band off the project. There had been many rumors about a new Sony team in San Diego, led by Mumbauer, with many assuming that it was working on a new Uncharted game after it said it was developing in an existing franchise. However, it seems that it referred to The Last of Us, with Uncharted's future seemingly remaining under Naughty Dog's control. So the TLDR here is that Sony Bend, who are the developers of Days Gone, had an internal smaller team of about 30 people that wanted to remake Uncharted and then decided to remake The Last of Us instead after they got apparently shut down by Sony or not approved, really. And then later that project was shifted to Naughty Dog itself, with Sony Bend becoming pretty much a support studio for Naughty Dog, and a lot of the people that were at Sony Bend have left because of that transition. There's a lot of interesting things to unpack here. The craziest thing is that The Last of Us remake and being in development was not even supposed to be the biggest part of the story. I feel like the story was really supposed to be about something else. That's just kind of like a detail that is so unexpected and kind of crazy, actually, that I feel like the detail has exploded into being the bigger story here, which is the existence of this thing. But you know what, I'm gonna let you take this first, Lewis. I do have lots of thoughts to share though, but
Well,
go
I
ahead.
mean, yeah, I feel like The Last of Us is like definitely a big deal as far as like, why are you remaking that game? Like, I have how do I put this? Reservations as to why, yeah, that needs to be remade because it doesn't feel like it's an old game. I mean, yeah, it was originally developed in 2013 for PS3 hardware. The scope of the world is small. It's very leveled. That kind of stuff. But it was remastered in the PS4. It's like you can literally just remaster the remaster for the PS5 and then make money that way. So the
Hmm.
fact that you want to like just sort of add like some Last of Us 2 gameplay mechanics, or the idea that you can expand it or whatever, or, I don't know, it just seems weird. The idea of maybe even having to like reshoot the cutscenes and stuff probably doesn't really fly with me as well. Yeah, that's just terrible. But also, there's definitely an interesting complex going on here when it comes to Sony and their thought process. When it comes to Sony, what they did during the PS4 generations, they were like putting out hit after hit, and now because I
Hmm.
feel like they backed themselves into a corner, because now you're in a position where like now you're expecting only hits. You're expecting to be
Hmm.
the PS4 generation. People want the PS5 generation to be the PS4 generation part two, basically.
Yeah.
And now they're in a position where Sony kind of like almost kind of feels like a little bit reactionary in terms of, well, instead of just trusting our leadership, our creative team to put new ideas on the table, we're gonna franchise this bitch. Everything's
Hmm.
franchises, and now it's like that's cool and all, but the fact that there's like this top-down imperative doesn't gel well with creative output,
Hmm.
and that's part of what worked for the PS4 generation. Um, yeah, like it's just I don't want to see Sony be slaves to their franchises. Number one,
Hmm.
no one can do it better than Nintendo when it comes to being slaves to your franchises. So that's number two. Uh, you know, it's interesting that like Xbox is like knocking on Sony's door, because if you think about it, because of everyone's like it feels like everyone, the talk of the town is like Game Pass, right? And so it's like
Yeah.
between Xbox having this like great like consumer friendly like subscription idea, and on top of that, you have bought and just thrown money around at the table, just bought up all these studios, and you got like what, like 30 something, 40 something, studios. Once you wrangle them up and actually start like getting a pipeline going of just output, you're so fucked. And now it just almost kind
It's
of feels like Sony is like in the weaker position when they were coming into this generation in the strong position. So yeah.
it's yeah, it's interesting you say that. Like I try to kind of keep my my beliefs of what's happening in check sometimes because I'm always worried that I'm being sent one way or the other based on the circles that I'm in, and how like people talk about the echo chambers and all of that stuff. But I have noticed, with the switch into this generation and the start of this generation, that obviously you got the circle of Xbox fanboys where Xbox can do no wrong, and you got the circle of PlayStation fanboys where PlayStation can do no wrong. But when it comes to the circle of more like balanced, more how would you say, like agnostic people that either buy both consoles, or maybe they'll swing one way or the other here and there, like, or swing states really, of the industry. And I feel like I follow a bunch of those. It seems like the general conversation has been that people are a lot more positive about Xbox right now than they are about Sony.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that they're not, they're all like admittedly like extremely excited for, the new Horizon and Ratchet and Clank and God of War and all this stuff. But aside from those exclusives, it almost makes me think of like Nintendo a little bit, like the way that people used to talk about Nintendo a few years ago, where it was like, oh, I have my PS4 for like my like 90% of my gaming time, and then I have my Wii U to play, like Mario Kart and Smash Brothers and that stuff. And I'm seeing a little bit of that, like a similar kind of narrative with PlayStation versus Xbox right now from the agnostic people, where it's like a lot of people seem to be like, they're really into Game Pass. They're I feel like Xbox is kind of owning the conversation a lot. And then with PlayStation, is like, oh, we're waiting for those 2 or 3 bangers that are going to come out every year, that are going to be like PlayStation exclusives, right?
Yeah.
Um, so that's interesting on itself. But I almost don't even want to talk too much about that yet, because I feel like that's talk about that in another podcast or something. Sorry, is my video okay there? Because there's
Your video cut out just now. It's you're now full on like grayed out. Oh, come on. There you go. Now turn your camera on. All right, I got to do the thing.
Mhm.
There you go.
Let me write this time code real quick. Lewis, I've been thinking something, by the way, about what keeps happening. I've been wondering if it's not my connection, but it's some other issue actually. Because whenever I disconnect, weird shit happens on my computer too. Like this time, like the whole like Discord app turned green. Like it had like this green filter to it for a few seconds, and then everything froze, and then I disconnected.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, okay. So going back to the subject here, The Last of Us remake. I want to talk about that first. That is such an odd choice because this game, and it's almost like I'm almost like in denial actually, where I feel like there was a mistake, because if this was like a remake, which we typically use that term to mean like the game is being rebuilt from the ground up, right? Like Final Fantasy VII remake, Resident Evil 2 remake. Well, The Last of Us is a 8-year-old game. It's a game that was remastered for the PS4, which is, it's still relevant. There's still new games coming out for the PS4, which is backwards compatible on the PS5. Like,
And a
I don't want
boost, and can be boosted too. But yeah.
I don't understand why. Like, though, to me, what seems like the right course of action to The Last of Us is to just give it like some remaster treatment, kind of like they did with Spider-Man and other games, Ratchet and Clank,
God of War.
uh, and put it out on the PS5. I don't anything else to me seems like a waste of resources, really. Like, especially because I love The Last of Us. It's potentially my favorite game of all time. I've played it twice. No, I think I played it like 3 times. Um I wouldn't play it again if a remake. I don't know if I would have. I don't know if I would be more likely to play it again if a remake came out on the PS5 than I would have already be to just replay the remastered version. We just played The Last of Us Part Two. Like I don't feel like going back to it. If I did, I would just play the remastered version. So it feels very weird. And then I saw some weird. There's some weird speculative theories right there that it has something to do with the show. That because they're making that show now, that maybe they would want to remake the game to more closely match like implement mechanics from Last of Us Part Two, and maybe also like have higher end like mocap and make the characters match like the characters in the show more or something akin to that, kind of
It's
like
like
what they did
Pedro
with.
Pascal or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. So that's pure speculation. I don't think it's based on anything.
They're gonna do the Spider-Man remaster thing, the
Yeah.
2018 Spider-Man thing all over again.
But I hope they don't do that, dude. Like I feel like that once again is such like just a weird waste of resources there. I would have preferred if the Steam remade Uncharted 1 cuz you know what? Uncharted 1 is older and that game, yes, that has felt like that needs some polish for sure. Like that could benefit more than this, or that instead they made something new, made some new Uncharted game, maybe some Last of Us spin-off, some other game set in the same universe, keep doing Days Gone, I don't know, do some new IP. Like there's so many other things that they could have done instead that would have been a better use of these resources than doing a Last of Us remake. Arguably I don't even know if that would sell that well because our people don't really want that. So now there's part of me, once again, I said I'm still in denial about this. There's part of me that believe that there's a miscommunication here somehow, and that we're talking about a remaster and not a remake. Like, or something in between. Like maybe they're doing a remaster with a lot of new artwork, kind of like Ocarina of Time 3D, right? Where that was like a remaster, but they put a lot of work into it. Like the game looks very different. They created new assets for the game. They redid certain parts of the game and etc. So I'm really hoping that it's more something like that they were looking at, something that they could do, in 2 years with a smaller team and put it out on the PS5. That would make more sense. And the other reason why I think that could be the case is because sometimes devs use terms differently than like the media or the players do. And I've noticed that on the dev side, that it's almost like each different company and studio and group of people kind of has their own terminologies that they start using, and it's consistent amongst their products, but that don't necessarily match. How the people speak outside, which is why PR will try to communicate things properly as opposed to just a dev going out and saying something. For instance, the whole concept of like next gen, like for every different studio or project that I've worked on, people use the term next gen differently. There were plenty of times where people use the term next gen to refer to a console that was already out for a while, just because they've been saying that for like since they started development of the game or something, right? So, um, interestingly enough, I was an intern at Heavy Iron Studios when they were helping out with Disney Infinity years ago. And in Disney Infinity, they were making the game for the Wii, the PS3, and the 360, and they called the PS3 and the 360 version of the game next gen, and they called the Wii version current gen, even though they're all the same gen. And the PS3 and the 360 were not next gen at that point; they were current gen for a while, but it just had to do with like the SKUs of the game, like the SKU that was like made for better hardware. They called that SKU next gen, etc. So I'm only bringing this up because it is possible that maybe this team, Sony Bend, used the term remake differently than Square Enix does. You know what I mean? Maybe what they meant by remake was more like a remaster. Now, I've been saying a lot. I know I've been going on this rant. Aside from that, which I think I already shared all my thoughts on that. Um, man, what the 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 management of this new Sony under Jim Ryan and Herman Hulst, I I had really high hopes for it, and so far I'm kind of disappointed. Like they don't really seem, it might be too early to say this, but they don't really seem to know what they're doing as well as the previous guys did. Don't you think, Lewis?
Bring back Sean Layden and Shuhei Yoshida.
Yeah, like Sean Layden and Shuhei and Adam Boyce,
Yeah,
that he's been gone for a while now, but I don't know, like with Jim Ryan going out and saying like what he said about backwards compatibility, where he was basically like, ah,
old
nobody
game is
wants
old.
that, and
Yeah,
all games old, and who wants to play Gran Turismo 3 nowadays? It's like, yeah, I get your point, but don't say that. Like your fans care about this stuff. They want to have access to their older games. It's a matter of preservation. Like for me, like I have this huge PS3 collection of games behind me, which I've been adding to recently. And it kind of sucks that I'm only going to be able to play them on the PS3. And once the PS3 dies, and um, maybe at one point I won't be able to access any kind of online servers anymore or download patches, that a lot of these games are going to become irrelevant. And it's making me make the choice now for older games that I want to buy for collection purposes. If it's a multi-platform game, I'm leaning more towards getting it on Xbox, like getting like a 360 copy, because I know, like, I kind of trust that that copy is gonna go farther than the PS3 copy that at this point can only run on the PS3 already. You
damn,
know?
damn facts. I
Yeah.
didn't even think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I only own like one 360 game, like physically. That's because it was on the the backwards compatibility compat list or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I've
that's
been talking
interesting.
for a long time, Lewis.
But apparently, like, there's like I don't know if we have the story on like on there, but in the doc or not. But there's a story about how like the PS4's like motherboard has like this like battery in it, and when the battery dies, you can't
Hmm.
even play physical games. Not even for like
Yeah.
never mind digital games, the physical games. That's interesting, and I don't think that's good. Obviously, number one, that's terrible. That there's like an expiration date for all the hardware out there. So preservation is going to be a bitch for the PS4 generation. Granted, it's a lifesaver that the PS5 is backwards compatible, so there's
Yeah.
that. But still, like that like there needs to be like some sort of like end of life patch for like the
Hmm.
PS3 and the PS4, where like whatever checks that are like security lockout features, they need to unlock it. So once it's like there's Sony's gonna sunset these hardwares from support and from online connectivity. Like once it's killed, you need to do some kind of patch where it's like, all right, now it's free, and now whatever security features that are preventing people from booting up these games, unlock it, because have fun with with modding it. Let it homebrew the hell out of it. Fuck it. Because that's the only
That's
way
not
these games are going to be continue to be played into the future. But yeah.
No, I agree with you, but that just doesn't sound like Sony. It especially doesn't sound with the current Sony, actually. There was still like some report recently about how the main reason why the Sony decided to kill the Vita was because people found a way to crack it. And they were basically like, oh, if you're gonna crack this one too, then fuck you, and then killed it. Which, I don't know the validity of that, but that's interesting, especially considering that, there's an argument that the PSP, and I have a friend who die on this hill, that the PSP was only as successful as it was because of the hacker community. That did so much with their PSPs and stuff. So yeah,
Yeah.
man, I don't know. That it just I don't want to end this on too much of a negative note. Like Sony still makes the best games, and the best game of the year contender, like a lot of the game of the year contenders that have come out in the last few years have been Sony published, or and many times Sony developed games. And they have plenty of extremely talented studios. I think the Sony studios right now are the most talented studios in the world, really, between Naughty Dog and Sony Santa Monica, Guerrilla, even Media Molecule, really, that, put out a fucking game engine in a console that can be used to make literally anything. That's pretty crazy. They they know what they're doing in so many ways. I just kind of worry about where top management is going to lead things moving forward, and maybe it's going to be fine. Maybe they're going to know what they're doing, and we're the ones that are being dumb about it. But it's there's decisions that are weird, and it's kind of our duty here doing this podcast to kind of call them out and look into them and talk about it, for your entertainment and information, listener.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
definitely don't get a pass. I'll say that. Yeah, I don't. I guess. I guess I'll leave you at that because I don't have any nice things to say. So go for it.
All right, I'll just throw this headline out here before we move on. You can also look into more details about the pitch of Days Gone 2. Apparently, it's going to have a co-op mode and a shared universe. There was an article from IGN that we may or may not link with the show notes. So you might want to look into that. There's also a petition to actually make Days Gone 2 that I saw going around, but there's a petition for anything. So who knows what's going to happen now? All right, Lewis, let's move on to our top news. And we're going to start here with a roundup for the Indie World Showcase for Nintendo that happened on April 14th, 2021. We're bringing this one from My Nintendo News by Sicker. And yeah, Louis, did you watch this direct?
Yes, I did. I was. I had, you know, when it comes to indie world presentations, I actually have my expectations set very, very low. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised. So I had
Yeah,
there was some interesting announcements and stuff like that. So
yeah, I'll
um,
give you that.
shout out to Fez. I love Fez. That's a great game. And it was like it's out today. I'm like, oh shit, cool, yeah.
Yeah. No, it was a nice little batch of indie games. I feel like, Nintendo deserves the props for the work they're doing with indies this gen because I feel like we saw indie games on Nintendo consoles before, but not to the extent that we're seeing them on the Switch. It almost makes me think of the Vita in the beginning, like the Vita was so good for indie games in its first year or two or three. Like every indie game was coming out on like Steam and on the Vita and then on other platforms, and it was just such a fun machine to whenever I was in flights, I would just be playing Super Meat Boy or like Oli Oli or anything like that, which we're going to get to in here in a minute. And it seems like the Switch is the new Vita in that way. It's kind of fulfilling that niche, and they're doing such a good job. They showed, I believe, over 20 games on this showcase. I'm just gonna go through them here. They end the show. Their one last thing was Oxenfree 2: Lost Signals, which I believe this was a pretty good ender, by the way, for the low expectations that people typically have set for these presentations. To have an announcement of a sequel to a big beloved indie game from a few years ago that granted will probably be coming to a lot of other platforms as well, but that we didn't know existed before this. That was pretty cool. I've heard really good things about Oxenfree. It's in my list. I know it's in Lewis's list as well. Some of the other stuff that they show: Road 96, Oli Oli World, which I played the original Oli Oli game, or it might have been Oli Oli 2 on Vita, and that game is fantastic. It's really fun. It's a skateboarding 2D side scroller game. They showed a new trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Shredder's Revenge. They showed The Longing, two games from Annapurna Interactive called Hindsight and Last Stop. Never Yield from Mayurio Night. Fess, Aztec Forgotten Gods, There Is No Game, Chris Dale's Getsu Fumaden Undying Moon, Beast of Maravilla Island, School the Hero Slayer, Art of Rally, Keye, or Keiwe.
I think it's
It's almost like
Kiwi.
almost makes me think of Kanye. It's like Kanye West, the game. Ender Lines, Quietus of the Nights, Weaving Tides, Labyrinth City, and the House of the Dead remake.
There you
Yeah,
go.
so you can look into that stuff if you're interested. Louis, any more shout outs you would like to give, comments?
Shout out to the Ninja Turtles games. That's it's it definitely looks like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like for the Super Nintendo, like Turtles in Time, or
Yeah.
the Ninja Turtle games, like the beat 'em up from the classic arcade. It's the same publisher from the people that made the people that published Streets of Rage 4. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I like beat 'em ups and stuff like that. So definitely want that's definitely at the top of the list. But yeah, also yeah, I just wanted to give another shout out to Fez because Fez is one of the best best indie games in like to ever indie game really. I'll just put it that way. So creative, so good with the little like shifting geometry thing going on. So, but for the most part, like yeah, like this overall this list isn't really like catching my attention. I sat through and One of the things that I noticed, like, part of the reason why I actually do have my like expectations set very low is that what tends to happen on these indie presentations is that when I usually like to like look at the time, is like, okay, how many more minutes is left on this presentation? And whenever you're checking the time, like how much longer, you lost. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, this game called The Longing seemed pretty interesting. This seems to be based. I also heard people talk about this on a podcast I listened to, but it's a game based on real world time where you are a servant of a king that is going to be asleep for 400 days, and you got to figure out ways to spend your time and do things during that time frame. And the 400 days are actual real world time 400 days. So theoretically, apparently, you can just not play the game for over a year and then get back to it, and you have reached the end of the game. Or alternatively, I think the idea is that you're going to do actions in the game, and then you're going to diminish that time until you get to the end. Some of the actions that you do as well are time based in the sense that like you send your character off to do something and then you got to check back in the next day. This developer talked about it. He said he was just very interested and fascinated by like real time mechanics in games, so he wanted to build a game all about it. The kind of thing that we see sometimes in Animal Crossing or mobile games and stuff like that. So not necessarily something that I want to play per se, but it's just very unique and interesting. So it just caught my attention. I if I see reviews for this and if it's getting good reviews, I might check it out.
It's very
Um,
lonely, by the way. The game I saw the gameplay.
yes.
By the way, arts shout out to that art style, by the way. It looked really dope.
Yeah, I did. It did look really cool. The House of the Dead remake. Now, here's the interesting thing. I think I talked on this podcast before about how I have kind of like a some old school love for House of the Dead. Now, specifically, the one I played the most off was House of the Dead 2. I don't think I really played a lot of the original House of the Dead, but I'm kind of curious about this remake. I mean, I definitely did not expect this franchise to get a remake, or I very much didn't expect us to see any more of it. I think, and interestingly enough, I think there was like a House of the Dead game on the PS3. I think it was House of the Dead 4. And it's a game that I've seen pop up as a like, before the PS3 store closes, you might want to check out like this game. So it's just one of those you might want to look into. But that's about it. Yeah, there wasn't a lot else that spoke to me either. Obviously, All the Oli World. Want to give a shout out to that just because the other Oli Oli games were really good. So yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So let's move on to the next story here. Epic will lose over $300 million on Epic Game Store exclusives and is fine with that, as reported by Tyler Wilde for PC Gamer. To take on Steam, Epic Games has spent the past 2 years shoveling Fortnite money into the Epic Game Store, making over 100 exclusivity deals and giving away free games every week. We knew Epic was spending a lot of cash to get customers onto its store, but didn't have many specifics until now. Thanks to Epic's big legal fight with Apple, we learned this week that Epic committed around $444 million to Epic Game Store exclusivity deals in 2020 alone. More precisely, that's $444 million on minimum guarantees for games that release on the Epic Game Store but stay off of Steam for a year. A minimum guarantee is just another way to refer to an advance. It means that Epic guarantees the publisher a certain amount of money whether or not their game actually sells enough to cover it. For example, Epic put down $10.45 million for Control. In its NIU report, Epic said that players spent $700 million on the Epic Store in 2020, but third-party game sales only accounted for $265 million of that spending. That $444 million in advances to third-party devs isn't close to being recouped then. Some of those deals must be for exclusives releasing in the future, but according to Apple's learnings, Epic is going to eat at least $330 million in unrecouped costs from minimum guarantees alone if you also consider 2019's deals. As for how much the Epic Game Store will have lost in total by the end of 2021, factoring in exclusives and all other expenses, projections say it's less than $600 million, just a bit of spending money then. These estimates come from Apple's pretty spicy summary of the arguments it's bringing to court next month as it defends its App Store and iOS policies against Epic's antitrust complaint As part of its defense, Apple's army of lawyers want to show that the Epic Game Store isn't comparable to its iOS App Store, and so it has included everything Epic has said about how unprofitable the Epic Game Store is. All right, I'm going to leave it there. So it seems like Epic might be the new Amazon in some ways, in the sense that it's just down to like drop all this money and lose all this money to dominate the market. What do you think about that?
Oh man, Apple is punching below the belt. I will say. How dare you? How dare this multi-billion-dollar company air out another multi-billion dollars company laundry, dirty laundry or whatever, you know?
It's kind of funny that they're just putting all this stuff out. Now it's going to generate all these headlines and etc. Like, I wonder if this is going to affect, like Epic stock or anything like that. I mean, you got to assume the shareholders already have some level of this information anyway, but
True.
it would be interesting if they didn't.
No,
you
it's
know,
probably true. What's
mhm,
interesting is like the whole mantra you got to spend money to make money. A lot of times when it comes to these companies and stuff like that, especially these big companies, they're willing to take a loss, financial loss year over year for growth. So it's like they know that the money is in like having a user base and stuff like that. So you're enticing these user bases with number one, giving away free games when that's the only reason why I log into that Epic Game Store launcher every week is to claim it and then bounce. Which
mhm.
I'm pretty sure they don't like that. I mean, like if I'm not interacting. I have yet to actually buy anything on the Epic Game Store like with my money, you know.
Yeah.
So there's that. But also like having Epic Game Stores exclusives. Probably because I'm not a PC gamer, actually, to tell you the truth. I would sooner just buy a game on Steam, which is what I did when we streamed together. But like, I'm not a PC gamer. I play on consoles, so of course, I'll just claim what I can get, and then there you go. Um, but it's interesting. Is like this is chump change. Like I know how much billions of dollars Epic is making on just Fortnite alone. So this is
Mhm.
something that's if you can take your losses at under $600 million and you're making more revenue from just Fortnite than the 600 million, you're gravy. Epic is healthy
Mhm.
and in a good place. So I'm pretty sure this is definitely not a raw deal for them. And just thinking about it from a pure like optics standpoint. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. If anything, I guess I'm just kind of surprised that they spent this much money on it because I wouldn't have seen that. I feel like with something like Game Pass, I would have expected them to be spending a huge amount of money, potentially even a lot more than this. But with the Epic Game Store, like, I don't know, maybe I didn't follow it close enough. I feel like a lot of this stuff was happening before we even started the podcast, but I don't remember us covering stories of oh, Epic just snatched this Epic Store exclusive game more than, a handful of times, maybe. That's it really hasn't happened as often as people act like it has. Maybe it has happened more in the indie space. But the money that there's, if they paid $10 million to have control, they couldn't be spending that much on indies, right? So like what else where
Kingdom
else did it
Hearts. Everyone got mad at
oh
Kingdom
yeah, yeah.
Hearts. But yeah,
That's
no,
true. That's
we've been
true.
covering them from time to time. There's just every time. By the way, one of the things, the narratives of every time somebody announces like, oh, it's an Epic Game Store exclusive, everyone gets pissed. Everyone gets mad. So
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting that even gamers are like PC gamers specifically are like, we want everything on Steam. So yeah,
Well, it comes across like Steam just has like a better set of tools and services and
better
etc. But at the same
experience.
time,
Yeah,
I can see you saying like I would rather my games on Steam. Totally valid. I I kind of get surprised when people get like desperately angry about it though, because it's like you could just download the other launcher and just get the game and just call it a day. You know what I mean? But
but like all the friends
to each
lists
their
is
own.
on Steam. All of like the experience, like all of the tools and stuff like that, all the back end stuff, like all the achievements, benefits, perks, whatever ancillary things that Steam offers. I'm pretty sure Epic doesn't. So
That's fair. That's a fair point. But at the same time, at least it's all free, right? Like the price of the game is the same, and then all these other stuff that you would maybe not get, like you're getting for free on one side, and you can get the other launcher for free, as opposed to a console exclusive where it would require you to spend, like 200, 300, $400 to be able to play the game.
true. Yeah.
So I guess it just surprises me that people get as angry. Basically, PC gamers get as angry about downloading another, like
Launcher.
free to download launcher than it seems like console games do over a whole console exclusive, which requires a much bigger purchase. But nonetheless, we're also not in the PC gaming space, so I don't want to speak for them as much. Let's move on to our next story, Lewis.
All right.
So there's a major PS5 update that's now available. This was reported by IGN, Matt Purslow. We got an original story here and then an update. So I'm going to read a little bit of the original story and then the update. The first major system software update for PS5 is rolling out for consoles in our regions right now and brings enhancements to storage, social features, and control and personalization options. As revealed on the PlayStation blog, the PS5 April update will allow players to store PS5 games on an USB expanded storage device, share gameplay across PS5 and PS4 consoles with SharePlay, and access the new trophy settings and stats screen. As for the update, the April system software update is not available and also includes a new software update for the DualSense controller. The update additionally includes a few other elements beyond the details provided by Sony previously, in particular, enhanced support for HDR and 120 Hz displays. For those using 120 Hz PC monitors, the PS5 now supports 1080p resolution at that high refresh rate. Unfortunately, the update does not add any variable refresh rate support, but this addition will help broaden the amount of displays that can make the most of the system's refresh rate power. I'm going to leave it there. Lewis, have you downloaded this yet? What do you know about it? I know you're more of the tech guy compared to me with some of this stuff, some of this hardware stuff. So what do you think? Is Sony finally catching up with the options with this update when it comes to display?
Yeah. So okay. There's definitely a lot to unpack here. I did have the update automatically download, and when I booted up
Mm-hmm.
my PS5 just to purchase Aloy, I was forced to like connect my PS5 with like directly into the like PS5 like the controller with the USB. And it was telling me to update it. Just hit the update, keep it plugged in, don't unplug it, all that good jazz or whatever. So don't I have no idea what the DualSense's update actually did. There's no explanation of what benefits you get from
Mm-hmm.
updating it, but whatever. The other thing about the enhanced support for HDR, HDR was already supported on the PS5 from day one because like that's how I was able to watch my stuff, my movies and stuff on streaming. So that's interesting. I guess maybe they have more like Dolby Vision or like
I
HDR 10
think
plus or something like that.
I think maybe they support more. Maybe there were monitor brands that were not supported properly. That's kind of what it comes across to me because they even say like that supports 1080p at 120 hertz. I'm pretty sure that was already supported as well. No,
Nope, nope.
no.
60
Okay.
frames was the maximum frame rate you can get out of the PS5. That's the Series X you're talking about.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
So now the thing is, it's interesting that they're doing 1080p at 120 frames because one of the things about the PS5 is it does not support 1440p resolution like at
Yeah.
all. And that is a popular resolution for PC monitors and stuff like that. It's like an in between 4K and and HD.
Yeah.
And the thing about as I explained before on like a year ago when we started one of the first original single episode digit podcasts that we did was when it comes to refresh rate, you know, having to push out less pixels is easier. Like when you think about your phone can do higher refresh rates because they're not 4K, you know, phones and stuff like
Yeah.
that. There's a lot of processing power it takes to push out that many pixels and refresh it, you know, at double time. You know, so the fact that you know you're scaling it down to 1080p, it's going to make it easier to hit that 120 frames. But also at the same time, Xbox is doing it as well, but they're doing it at 1440p. So that's a bit of an L for a PS5, in my opinion.
Hmm. No, fair enough. And I've heard that complaint before because there's a lot of people that like that 1440p resolution, where they find that it looks just as good as 4K for the most part, and then it allows you to have the game run better and have a higher frame rate and etc. So a lot of people would like to have that option. I know that I've heard that comment before. So hopefully it's something that they can somehow patch it in the future. But who knows, right? We'll have to wait and see. It's cool to see that they're making improvements. You know that what, like, has it been 5 months since the console came out? I think so. 5 months after the console came out, they come out with this big update that adds a lot of new features and support for new things. There are a few interesting things in there. There's still a few, once again, there's a few just weird things with the with Sony this gen, right? Like, it's the storage, them having like very limited storage in the console, and then also not providing a good storage solution day one, like
They did that with the
Xbox did, right?
PS4, by the way.
Yeah. Now it seems like you can use USB flash drives. I believe you can store games there, but you can't play them from there. So it just kind of acts as a extra storage for your games. You need to bring them into the SSD when you actually wanted to play them.
The
Yeah, so
same
that's interesting right there. Yeah.
The same is true for the Series X, by the way. Like the Series X
Oh yeah.
optimized games and the PS5 optimized games, they're optimized for the read and write speeds of the SSDs. So
Hmm.
day one from the Xbox, from the get-go, you can have an external HDD hard drive, be used as like a pack mule for you to like store your games if you're not playing them. So it's it's good that finally the PlayStation is allowing you to just offset and offshore the games to a USB storage device. I'm now gonna finally be able to buy an external hard drive for my PS5 and actually have it be useful because I'm already struggling with space and I barely migrated a fraction of what I migrated on the from the PS4. Like I actually had to pick and choose my babies when it came
Oh
to
yeah.
like being able to migrate everything over. So what's actually kind of interesting, by the way, is like I'm at almost like 6 terabytes on the PS4, and I'm actually like did a check on how much storage I have available, and I'm like, geez, I'm like down to like 300-400 gigabytes left, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm glad. I'm glad the PS4 generation is over for me because I would have been hella screwed.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I bet 90% of those are PS Plus games that you've never even, opened, by the way, or even thought to open.
Yeah.
Moving on to our next story here. This one is just kind of speculative as well. The next BioShock will be an open world game, as reported by Specie Games N. We heard a while back that 2K Games was spinning up a new studio to work on the next entry in the BioShock series. And now, some new job listings have provided a few more details about what we can expect when we finally see it. Unlike the BioShock games of the past, the next chapter in the FPS game series will be an open world game featuring character driven stories in both primary and secondary missions. The studio working on the next BioShock game is called Cloud Chamber and is currently hiring for several positions. These include an AI programmer, UI/UX designer, a tools programmer, senior world designer, a senior technical designer, and a senior writer. This last, based in the Montreal office, will be a position responsible for helping to create the narrative content for BioShock 4. And the ad says the studio is looking for someone, open quote, who can weave impactful character driven stories in an open world setting, end quote. The senior writer will also be, open quote, brainstorming primary and secondary mission content with the design and helping in the creation and execution of the core story, including the writing of dialogue and other narrative elements as director. The position reports directly to the project's lead writer. Other clues about BioShock 4 can be found in the other job postings. The video game AI programmer role, for instance, explains that the job will involve developing an urban crowd system and the systemic tribal ecology of a sometimes hostile AI. Game designs go through multiple iterations between the initial concepting phase and final release, so everything about BioShock 4 is currently subject to change. That said, it seems clear that Cloud Chamber is planning on something a bit different with the next BioShock. A more open world that's populated with an AI driven ecology certainly sounds fascinating.
Damn,
Yeah,
that sounds
Lewis.
very ambitious. It almost sounds very cyberpunk, and that like we
Yeah.
need to like have like this city full of AIs and walking around and anything can happen kind of thing. So very
Yeah.
complicated. And yeah, it's interesting. Like BioShock was that next level. I feel like BioShock was that next level generation experience when people got their PS3s and their 360s and stuff like that, and they hold in that high regard. And I'm glad that they're doing that again with this with the generation with the PS5 and Series X. So like, hey, let's push the brownie. Let's make we got the technology kind of thing, So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It seems like they're trying to push. They definitely want to make this a true next gen Bioshock experience and not just just more of the same with what the previous Bioshock games did. Definitely take this story with a grain of salt. Nothing is confirmed. It's just based on job listings, and as we've seen before, those sometimes can be misleading.
Or features
There are
can get
times
cut.
our features can get cut. It's exactly, we have no idea. Do we know like at which stage of development this game is on? Like, I don't even think it has been properly formally announced, right? Like it's been said that it's in development, but we haven't had like a reveal of some kind, right? So this game could be years out for all we know.
True.
All right, and to finish our new segment here, there was a Resident Evil showcase that happened today. They are recording, and that is the Resident Evil showcase for April 2021, and we're going to see everything announced at it from, as reported by IGN, Adam Bankhurst. Capcom's latest Resident Evil showcase not only gave us a new look at the upcoming Resident Evil Village and shared that a new demo is on the way, but it also officially revealed that Resident Evil 4 VR will be soon making its way to the Oculus Quest 2. The Resident Evil showcase also featured a few other announcements, and we gathered each and every one here for you. So let's see here. We got Resident Evil 4 VR announced for Oculus Quest 2. Capcom has announced that Resident Evil 4 is getting a full VR port for the Oculus Quest 2. This version of RE4 will be in first person, and while more details will be revealed on April 21st during the Oculus Games Showcase, a short gameplay teaser showed things like Leon holding weapons, interacting with a virtual attached case, and using a virtual hand crank for one of the puzzles. Resident Evil Village's gameplay demo arrives next week for PlayStation owners, early May for all platforms. There's a new Resident Evil Village trailer featuring Lady Dimitrescu, Ethan Winters, and more. Resident Evil Mercenaries is returning to Resident Evil Village. That is the popular time trial mode that's been around since Resident Evil 3. And it's returning in Resident Evil Village. The mode was last seen in Resident Evil 6, and the idea is to let players compete in high score challenges by racking up kills and collecting time extension bonuses. It will include new features like power upgrades and weapon shops between rounds. Capcom presented or premiered the first trailer for Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, a new animated movie coming to Netflix this July. I believe we mentioned this as an extra news in the podcast before. And they announced Dead by Daylight, a collaboration event with Resident Evil. Behavior Interactive will reveal the Resident Evil chapter on May 25th during DBD's 5th anniversary stream. The collab chapter will be released in June.
Damn, Dead by Daylight is 5 years old or about to be. Wow.
Yeah, man, Dead by Daylight. Like, I know this game by title, but I can't even remember what game this is. Like, I feel like there's so many games with similar. Like, it's like there's these games, these horror games that I've never played, that all kind of have like similar names, or the names just kind of have so many overlapping words that they all just kind of blend together in my head. So I'm like, there's Dying Light,
Yeah.
and then Dying Light 2, but then there is Dead by Daylight, right? And then there is Dead Island, and like I don't know, like there's all these different, all have like dead on it or something. Which one is Dead by Daylight?
Dead by Daylight is the is like the horror game where you're basically playing like Friday the 13th, the game, but it's an original characters, and so they were like doing tropes and stuff like that, where you're the killer and you gotta hunt these teens down and kill them. And then they got started becoming like doing the Fortnite thing where they crossed over and they actually had, instead of a generic killer, now you have Freddy Krueger or Jason Voorhees or Leatherface or now Resident Evil characters. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I just looked at the trailer here for the Resident Evil 4 in VR, and it looks like they're doing a good job with it. I have to say though, with like these, like I can't see myself. I already barely can see myself playing horror games in general. I wouldn't be able to play them in VR. That would be too much. That would be too much for me.
So I just gotta say, how dare they not port this game to PlayStation VR? Like, what are we doing here? Like, come on.
You know what? They must be getting that Facebook money, is what I think. And my guess is that we're gonna see it eventually. I think it must be, nowadays, whenever I hear about a third party exclusivity, I always assume it's a timed exclusivity. You know what I mean? Because I feel like I could be wrong. I'm not privy to those kinds of deals, but I feel like companies don't seem to really be making those deals anymore, where it's like, hey, like you have exclusive rights to our game indefinitely, because it just feels too risky, right? It's like, what if the platform doesn't sell as much as you would expected it to, or what if your game on that platform doesn't sell as much as you expected it to? Your game is just dead, right? There's nothing you can do about it. It makes sense from a first party perspective, but as a third party, like, why would you ever want to do that? So I feel like it's one of those things where they probably have those contracts like with a price per year or even a price per month or something akin to that is what I'll probably expect. So yeah, I don't know, Lewis. Maybe we'll see it. Maybe we'll see it in a year
I
on
wonder.
PSVR.
I wonder when we're gonna get our first ever PSVR 2 exclusive. Like, I mean, is it gonna be at launch kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like, what if this is
Yeah,
like doesn't even come to the PlayStation VR? Like, it
I
comes
don't
to
know.
the VR 2 because
Hmm.
specs wise, the PSVR can't isn't up to snuff kind of thing or whatever. So that'd be interesting because the Quest 2 is hella new.
As far as actual Resident Evil Village goes, I had to say this game looks dope, and I think that this is gonna be the Resident Evil game that's gonna make the biggest splash in a while. I'm not counting the remake, but like the new Resident Evil game that makes the biggest splash in a while. Um, with all the the memes around it and the anticipation and the expectation, the way that they've been promoting this game, and also the fact that it's gonna like this year has been kind of slow as far as new big releases. New AAA releases have been. Most of the games are getting delayed. A lot of things were influenced by COVID. We're gonna have a lot of big games coming out towards the end of the year, but with this game coming out in May, I feel like it's really gonna own the conversation, kind of like how honestly like It Takes Two is the kind of game that I feel like
People are still talking about it on Twitter.
yeah,
Like,
like normally in a different year people wouldn't it would not really have made much of a splash, but I keep hearing people talk about it. People that I didn't hear talk about A Way Out or Brothers are talking about It Takes Two, right? Similarly, there's this game called Outriders that we never even mentioned in the podcast, but it's okay because you probably heard about it in every other gaming podcast that you listen to if you listen to any. It's just not a game that either Lewis or I checked out, so it didn't make sense for us to
and
cover
we
it in
both
any
have Game
way.
Pass.
Yeah. Um, but you know what, Lewis? I'm just not interested. Like maybe I should, but there's these games every once in a while that like they just become these worldwide sensations for a short time frame, and they're what everybody's playing, and a lot of times they're just not for me. You know what I mean? And I'd rather continue to play through my backlog.
Yeah.
I'd rather just play the games I'm playing. Especially because I'm into Fortnite now and I'm playing with my friends, and we played it again last week and stuff. So I don't, yeah, I don't really see myself getting into another kind of similar type of
That's
multiplayer
almost
game
like
right now.
that is a topic of the show in and of itself right there, where it's like if every game is a
Yeah.
game that you have to play for the rest of your life, like if there's too many destinies out there, then you can't feasibly play it all.
Although we have to be fair with something. I've been told that Outriders is not
I
a
know.
games as a
I
service.
know.
It's you can get to the end of it eventually and then it's just over.
Yeah, I
But
know. Yeah, but
it pretty
Avengers,
much
like
yeah,
Avengers and like Destiny 2 and Fortnite and yeah, like games that you play forever in perpetuity and stuff like that, like Rainbow Six
yeah,
Siege and like there's not enough hours in the day to do it all, so
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, we got off of the topic of Resident Evil, but nonetheless, we covered the story, and I'm excited. I'll probably try to check out Resident Evil Village. I feel like if it's really good, if it's as good as like RE2 was, that this will be a game of the year contender, and that it has the potential to maintain the conversation going for a long time, owning the conversation in May and June, just because there's not a lot of other big stuff coming out right now. Um, that's what I expect there.
I am the type of person that would buy Resident Evil 8 just to support it and then not play it, which is exactly what I did with Resident Evil 7. But I wonder if they're gonna go out of their way and like just do like this thing where like Resident Evil 7 can be played in VR. Like it's also designed in
Mm,
VR. You can play the whole game from start to finish. I wonder if they're gonna do that thing where it's like same thing for Resident Evil 8. But I think Resident Evil 8 is Village or whatever. I think it's PlayStation 5 exclusive. So I don't know how they're going to handle that. If they're going to wait for the VR2 to drop and then patch it later, or just through backwards compatibility.
I think you were wrong. I think Resident Evil Village is coming out to more platforms than that.
Hmm.
I almost want to pull it up now. You know what? I'll look into this and I'll bring it up later when you're running the show. But let's let's move on here to our extra news. We got 9 items on the list here today. Number one, Cyberpunk 2077 releases 1.21 patch, including lots of bug fixes, UI changes, and more. Number two, Streets of Rage 4 developers announced new game mode, characters, and customization options across 2 DLC packages, one paid and one free. Number 3, Deathloop has been delayed to September 2021.
I believe we covered that
Number
last week
4,
on Extra News, by the way, but whatever.
did we?
I'm pretty
Did
sure we
we?
did.
I know we covered a delay, but I thought it was a different delay. Number 4, during WrestleMania 37, WWE 2K22 was revealed alongside a first look at gameplay featuring Rey Mysterio and Cesaro. Number 5, Assassin's Creed Valhalla Island expansion has been delayed to May 13th. Number 6, user proves once PS4's internal CMOS battery dies, even physical games won't play offline. This
That's
is
the
what
one.
Lewis alluded to earlier in the show. Number 7, PlayStation is working on a counterpunch to Xbox Game Pass, claims God of War creator, that is David Jaffe. Number 8, players reportedly unable to download essential PS3 game patches ahead of store closure. You might want to look into that one, Lewis.
Oh
Number
no.
9, Sony has announced that Days Gone will officially be making its way to PC on May 18th with 21 by 9 ultra wide monitor support, an unlocked frame rate, and more. Anything that tickles your fancy here, Lewis?
Oh, actually, a couple of things here. First off, the one that you shouted out, especially regarding like the essential download updates and stuff like that. That is crazy. Like I have a bunch of games on my PS3 that I never even bothered to install, like physical games that are still in a shrink wrap. And I'm pretty sure I need to go out of my way, insert the discs to download these patches, and it's going to be a pain in the ass if like we get to a situation where now I can't even like launch these games properly because now I'm about to play these games strictly off of 1.0, and who wants that? But
Yeah.
as far as the story goes, I believe it's only affecting like multiplayer titles. Like it's not like
Nope.
anything that's single player. Am I
Oh,
mistaken? I don't know.
so here's some of the games: Journey, Little Big Planet, Castlevania: Lords of Shadow, Battlefield 4, Gran Turismo 5, and Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga.
Lego Star Wars is not online. What the hell? Like that doesn't make any
Yep.
sense. Majority of them, I think Castlevania is also a single player game. Like majority of them have like multiplayer, like online elements that make sense. But like, what the hell? Like, this is ridiculous, and somebody needs to get fired. I don't know. Just yeah. I'm a little. It's so interesting. Like the idea, like that when you people buy retro games like a Super Nintendo and stuff like that, when you have the cartridge, the game is gonna work as long as your cartridge is in good shape and your console's in good shape. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the idea that I can have a fully functioning PS3 and I can have a non-scratch disc and the game still won't work or whatever. Or better yet, you can't even like if you're like retro hunting in the future and stuff like that. You don't even know if your PS3 if it even has these games already pre-downloaded, pre-patched or whatever. So it's so terrible to the idea that a bunch of like 1.0 games are like not playable. Especially with
Yeah.
PS4 generations when people started shipping 1.0 games that are not playable because they require day one
Hmm.
patches. So
Yeah. That's the thing. It's like it's crazy to think about the direction that this has been going, right? And at some point, physical will be made somewhat irrelevant, not even because of all the reasons that we always talk about, but because they will not last. They're like you people say, like, oh, I want to have a physical game. One of the arguments for having a physical game over a digital one is because so you can continue to have the game in perpetuity and own it, as opposed to, having this virtual right to own the game that could be taken away, in for a variety of different reasons. But the truth is, not even the physical game really gives you that anymore in the new generation of games, because like you said, like with the PS3 generation, the Xbox 360 generation, that was the beginning of patches. That was the beginning of games shipping in a way that is not final and being continued to be updated on after being shipped. So for a lot of games in that generation, if you have the disc, if you have the console, you can play it as it came in the disc, but that might be incomplete, that might be buggy, that might not be what people really remember the game as after. A good example of that, I believe, is that Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, when it came out on the PS3, it was very broken on the PS3, like significantly, and it was much worse than the other versions, and it got good after a variety of different patches. But if you have the base Elder Scrolls 5 on PS3, that wouldn't really be very playable. Now, granted, that's a game that's been ported from to a million of other platforms, but that's not the case with everything. And aside from that, that problem has gotten worse with every generation, right? So with the PS4 generation, then we saw games be sometimes released in a way where they have a day one patch where the way you're really supposed going even further with this stuff now with things like the Switch, where there are games on the Switch where the game is not even included in the cartridge. The cartridge just lets you download the game, basically. Um, think about that too, right? And if that makes its way to other consoles as well, as I could see happening because games are getting so big, right? Like the latest Call of Duty is huge. I don't know, man. It's kind of crazy, and so many games have online components now too, to the point, or have up to at least like ping a server in some way when you start them. Um, that all those games will straight up just be unplayable in the future.
One of the things that I noticed that when I was super impatient is when I first bought Mortal Kombat 10 or Mortal Kombat X, like the original vanilla game, like the actual disc itself, what was printed on the disc was what two characters in one stage or two characters two stages, and that's it. When you boot the game strictly off of the disc and don't and I was too impatient to wait for the day one patch to come through. That was ridiculous. The idea that I can what's on the disc is so not the game. All the characters and all the stages were grayed out. So
Hmm.
uh, that's an interesting idea of beating a PS4 in the future, getting Mortal Kombat X in the future, and you don't have that day one patch because the servers are turned off. But um, that's why you would have to get the re-release. With the Mortal Kombat XL, but whatever. Anyways, that and also the situation with what's the point of owning a physical copy of like games that are online, things like Destiny. Why would I
Right.
own a physical copy of Destiny when it's purely online and the servers will get shut down one day? So
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm gonna do the thing. There we go.
All right, Lewis. Let's move on to check this out.
All right.
I admittedly don't have the best stuff for check this out this week, but there are basically two stories that I thought had something in common and that it made more sense as a check this out than reading as an extra news story, just because they are very visual. But basically, there are two very interesting crossovers happening across two different games. We got a Rick and Morty crossover with Rainbow Six Siege, and we also got a Street Fighter crossover on Power Rangers Battle for the Grid. Now you're more, you're more into fighting games than I am, Lewis. I understand these. I don't know about Power. I'm guessing Power Rangers is a fighting game. I know that's not Rainbow Six Siege, but nonetheless, you are bigger on the world of crossovers and Smash Ultimate and all that stuff. So I thought maybe those would potentially tickle your fancy. What do you have to say?
I actually kind of dig it. Like, first off,
Mhm.
Power Rangers Battle for the Grid specifically, it actually kind of reviewed well. It's actually like, people were like, might be a little turned off about the IP or whatever. It's like, oh, it's Power Rangers, and it's like, the original Mighty Morphin. It's like, oh, it's childish and stuff like that. I won't. Some people could be like a little too cool for school. It's like I won't be caught dead, playing that game kind of thing. But yeah, I like what they did was they basically took like the Power Rangers like actual costumes and they modified them to look like a little Chun Li-ish, a little Ryu-ish. Nothing like. It's not like you're putting Ryu in the game or whatever. It's like it's more of like that aesthetic. And I'm just looking at these screenshots and yeah, it looks dope. I actually like it. I kind of like the
You know,
swagger.
This it's so interesting to see like somebody in a Power Ranger suit and then with like Rio's costume on top of it. It actually looks kind of ridiculous to me. Like, why would you need that? It makes me think of like that Halo trailer. I think it was for Halo 5, where Master Chief was in the middle of the desert and he had like this cloak around him. And
Hmm.
everybody was like, why does he need the cloak? He has a fucking like high-end piece of armor. You know what I mean? It's as if like Iron Man put a t-shirt like on top of the suit. It's like Like that would be weird too, right? So it's kind of silly in that sense, but cool. This game actually looks fun. I had never really seen it.
Yeah, I've seen trailers. I've seen gameplay footage of it. It actually is pretty sound as far as like mechanics and fighting, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it as a meta game or as a competitive.
Hmm.
It's like this isn't exactly in the Evo lineup. So
Right.
just if it is, it's probably a side event or whatever. So. But yeah, no, I think it's like been getting some sales. Apparently, you can get it on sale for like $12.50 is what it says here. Or wait, or is it just the DLC pack is currently half off or whatever? But anyways, yeah, like there were some sales that happened, and I'm pretty sure you can just wait for the next sale if you're into like just fighting games in general. This, you know what? I'm gonna just come out and say right now, like Capcom whores out Ryu and Chun Li a lot. They pimp. They're their pimp. Capcom is their pimp, and they're like, here, go to Monster Hunter, go to Smash, go to Fortnite, go to Power Rangers. Like just go, shut up and go out there and make me my money.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
But as far as the Rick and Morty stuff, I love me some Rick and Morty. They're you know, it's I like how he's got like Pickle Rick, and he looks exactly like Pickle Rick with the whole like mouse contraptions and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not big on Rainbow Six because I wouldn't probably if I played it I would get like stomped on, and everyone would tell me to leave and call me a noob, and then yeah. So but yeah, to each their own. If you are into Rainbow Six Siege and you love Rick and Morty, there you go. Perfect. Match made in heaven.
Yep, that's good. All right, Liz, I'll let you take us home now.
All right. That's the wrong one.
Oh, wrong one.
Wrong one, wrong one. All right, here we go. There we go.
What are you buying?
There we go. That's the one. I'm going to leave it in there. Well, obviously for the video listeners. You're editing,
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, that's right.
I'm editing the audio, so
Yeah, all right. All right, here we go. For the new releases, we have let's see. First up is Super Meat Boy Forever. This is coming for the PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series X and S, the PS4, and the Xbox One, and it's going to be out today. It reads Super Meat Boy is back. Play through literally thousands of levels, fight bosses, find secrets, cry at an amazing story. Super Meat Boy Forever takes place a few years after the events of Super Meat Boy. Meat Boy and Bandage Girl have been living a happy life free of Dr. Fetus and for several years, and they now have a wonderful little baby named Nugget. Nugget is a joy personified, and she is everything that Meat Boy and Bandage Girl. One day, while our heroes were here on a picnic, Dr. Fetus snuck up on them, beat Meat Boy and Bandage Girl unconscious with a shovel, and kidnapped Nugget. When our heroes came to and found out that Nugget was missing, they knew who to go after. They cracked their knuckles and decided to never stop until they got Nugget back and taught Dr. Fetus a very important lesson. A lesson that can only be taught with punches and kicks. The challenge of Super Meat Boy returns in Super Meat Boy Forever. Levels are brutal, death is inevitable, and players will get the sweet feeling of accomplishment after beating a level. Players will run, jump, and punch and kick their way through familiar settings and totally new worlds. That is quite an interesting read. I like how they just put a whole like novel in there.
mhm.
Not a whole lot about like gameplay and stuff like that. So, this was a timed exclusive on the Switch. It's been on the Switch since like December, I want to say. So now it's out on other consoles. So yeah, anything to say about this?
Um, I was gonna say that I had actually totally forgot that it came out on the Switch, even though I'm pretty sure we talked about it last December, and I think I said like, "Oh, that's a game that I might check out during break," and then I didn't even remember it came out. So that's just a good example of how much that happens.
Yeah.
No, I want to play this game eventually. I really like the original Super Meat Boy. This is a little bit different. I think this is can't remember if it's like procedurally generated or
I
something. I
believe
just
it
know that this
is.
is a different. Yeah, it's a different style of game. But I really want to check it out eventually. Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Trial Pass, which is coming out for the PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Also out on the 16th. And lastly, or not lastly, the heavy hitter is going to be MLB The Show 21, which is going to be out on PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, and Xbox One on the on 420. Hey,
Blaze it.
exactly. It's going to be available on Game Pass for people day one. So if you're a Game Pass subscriber, boom, there you go. It says here, be a two-way star. For the first time, take your ball player and from the road to the show and use him in other game modes. Now, your ball player can be a two-way star. Streamline Diamond Dynasty experience. Our live content now streamlines programs to provide clearer goals, faster paths to rewards based on how you play, and welcome a new class of legend to build your dream squad. Tailored and focused gameplay. New to MLB The Show this year is gameplay styles alongside new gameplay onboarding tutorials to expand gameplay for all play styles and skill levels, casual, simulation, and competitive. New experiences, new pitching mechanics, complete fielding overhaul, new players onboarding experience, new franchises, and MTO tools to better plan for the future. Unleash your creativity to build something truly epic with the highly anticipated Stadium Creator Mode in the Xbox Series versions. 4K, Ultra HD, not available on Xbox One or One S consoles. What about the One X? Okay, whatever. So yeah, that's the we got this from the straight from the Microsoft website because apparently PlayStation doesn't like to put blurbs on their
You
website.
know,
So
you said, what about the One X? I'm guessing that it is available on the One X, and that's why they didn't include it there,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true.
Not available on, yeah,
Not available on the One or the One S. So I'm guessing hopefully 4K is on the One X since they didn't
yeah,
specifically like sideline that one. But yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
Cool.
but yeah, that's where like the two heavy hitters was Super Meat Boy and MLB The Show. But to round out the week on 422, we got Atelier Mysterious Trilogy Deluxe Pack on PS4, Switch, and PC, and Buildings Have Feelings to also PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. That's
I
the
want
new
to pull up
releases.
that game. Like, what is buildings have feelings too? I'm curious. I know we're running long on the show, but now I'm very curious about this thing.
You should have been
Um,
researching the if Resident Evil Village is coming out on PS4.
I already did, and I
Oh,
put a little surprise for you later in the show.
okay, okay, all right. I'll let
You
you
know
like.
what?
I'll let you.
Let's keep going.
All right. Pick of the week, probably MLB The Show. I don't know. I'm not really big on sports games, but Super Meat Boy. I don't know. I haven't. I would probably sooner just play the first Super Meat Boy. Probably. If I wanted to play it on Switch, I probably would have gotten it. So yeah, MLB
Yeah,
because it's new.
and free with Game Pass or included in
There
Game
you go.
Pass.
There you go.
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
So for the broke gamers guides here, we actually have a very good surprise here. We talked about it last week where there was going to be like 3 free games on the Epic Game Store. So those 3 free games are going to be. Let me just change this here. All right. First up is Deponia, The Complete Journey, which is going to be available until April 22nd. Ken Follett's The Pillars of Earth and The First Tree. Now, just because I'm going to judge a book by its cover, and I think that the art for The First Tree looks dope, we're going to read the blurb on The First Tree. It says here, a beautiful third-person exploration game centered around 2 parallel stories, a fox trying to find her missing family and a son reconnecting with his estranged father in Alaska. Uncover artifacts from the son's life as the journey towards the first tree. That looks very beautiful. Ah,
Hmm.
little tear. This artwork looks dope though. Looking at this trailer, it looks pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too.
Next up, we're gonna go towards. Let's
It
see.
has kind of like that Annapurna interactive feel to it.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's one of those games developed by just one person, by the way.
Mm.
Yeah.
And lastly, I just wanted to just say, as we like to say allegedly, what next week's free games are. It's going to be Alien Isolation. Now that's a get right there. So Alien Isolation is going to be free for next week, as well as Hand of Fate 2. Let's go ahead and move on to the Nintendo sales. there was an Indie World presentation that happened. We talked about it on the news, and there's an Indie World sale going on. So Fez launches with a sale. Wow, it's off a
It's
whole dollar
yeah.
50.
It's a very and they do that sometimes just so that to give the game more visibility. So that people see it when they pull up the eShop
The
like
deals.
sales by deals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Fez 1350, which is a great game by the way. I really liked it. Hades is off for $5. $5 off is what I meant. So it's $20. By the way, here's a good get. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. It's $24, and the Switch version actually isn't bad. So as far as like performance goes, so
Yeah, it came out running better than the Xbox version actually. I
yeah, I
I
know.
believe I've heard that. Yeah.
Yes, that is a true story. The inferior hardware of the Switch, day one on the Switch was better than day one on the Xbox One. Granted, they had more time to like optimize, but still, it's kind of hilarious. But yeah, somebody got fired because of a Dead Cells review a long time ago. $17.50 on sale there. Yeah, I don't see anything else that I would shout out as far as an indie sale, unless you see. Oh shit, I just saw Carry On. Carry On, $13.39. Dope. Anything you got for us as far as the indie sales?
Yeah. So there's number one, like a lot of good looking indie games actually. This reminds me of what we said earlier in the show, how like the Switch is just a beautiful indie machine right now. So there's lots of things to check out. I did play Sea of Solitude. I've talked about this in the podcast. They released the director's cut on the Switch, which I believe has better new voice acting and a few other changes, which that was my main criticism of the game. It was I liked a lot of parts of it, but I thought the voice acting felt very amateurish. And because the game was so heavily like because voice acting was such a heavy part of the game, there was like a lot of it. It and it was supposed to be this like emotional experience. The voice acting not being delivered like perfectly really hindered actually, and was the reason why I felt like meh about the game. But it's on sale, and for $14 with the better voice acting, my guess is that that's a really good get potentially there. Carry On, I've played a bit off. It's cool. Haven, I played on the Xbox. A lot of these games are available on Xbox Game Pass, by the way, so you might want to check that out. But if you want them on the go, then you might want them on the Switch. Haven is interesting. I love Oli Oli. I'm not sure what this version of it is in the Switch. It's called Oli Oli Switch Stance, but this one is a big deal. It's typically retails for $15. You can get it for just $3 right now.
Hmm.
So you might want to get that. You got the Jackbox Party Pack 7. That's one of the more recent ones. That's the one from last year, actually, is the most recent one. And that's $10 off. I believe both Roki as well as Raji and Ancient Epic were nominated for Game Awards not too long ago. Katana Zero is a very beloved game. River City Girls is a high rated beat 'em up that came out in 2019. You got obviously Dead Cell. So yeah, lots of excellent games there. So definitely go check this out. This isn't your typical like. I mean, they're all indies, right? So like, go check them out if you care about indies. But oh, just if you keep going, there's more indie related sales, by the way, because you got a Super Giant sale. Bastion is just $3. You got a Devolver Digital sale. So yeah, lots of good shit there. And the spring sale continues as well.
Of
Yeah.
course. All
Yeah.
right. This is the part where you like put me on blast here.
Yeah.
Uh,
So that's it for the
that's
sales.
it for the
But
sales. Yeah. Yeah.
we didn't have anything else to feature today. However, here we go. So first, on the very website for Resident Evil Village, if you go to the pre-order part, you can see PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Steam, and Stadia. So you were wrong, Lewis.
Why did I think it was next gen only or whatever? Interesting. Xbox One, they got it on the VCR model. So there you go.
I wonder if it's one of those things where I think they announced it kind of like as a next gen game, and then later they were like, oh, by the way, it's also coming out on the PS4. Kind of like they did with like Horizon and stuff. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
that's
I feel
true.
like it's one of those situations.
Or like
Oh, and then
they did the thing where it's like there was during like a Sony presentation, like a state of play that was focusing on PS5, and they're showing the
yeah.
next gen versions and stuff. But yeah,
Yeah,
whatever.
it was revealed. It was revealed with the PS5 review. It was like one of the big things on that presentation. And then the other thing is that I just pulled up Buildings That Feelings Do. I just wanted to see what that it was. Imagine a city where buildings can walk and talk to one another. Each one has its own aspirations, hopes, and fears. Most of the time, they're just trying to get along with each other and make it through the day. Buildings Have Feelings too is a city management game with character. Players must grow their city whilst making sure the individual buildings thrive or risk them being demolished forever. Interesting concept. Yeah, just wanted to throw that out there. And yeah, that's pretty much it for our show today, I think.
Yep. All right.
You can do it, Liz. It is time to end. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Ready Press Play. Remember, you can reach the podcast at readyplaynetwork.com or simply at Ready Press Play on Twitter or TikTok. I'm on Twitter at the Dan Lima, and Lewis
At Chocolaka88.
That's right. Don't forget to subscribe, give us a review, tell your friends about the show, and all that good stuff. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Peace.